What's going on, everyone? Let me tell you about something that just exploded on SportsCenter today on Thanksgiving Eve that has the entire 49ers universe talking about roster moves, contract drama, and organizational decisions that could have massive implications for the rest of this season and beyond. I'm talking about the kind of breaking news that changes your depth chart immediately, that forces you to reconsider how this team is going to navigate the final stretch of the regular season with all the injuries they're dealing with, and that also brings back to the surface one of the most bizarre and unfortunate player-team relationship breakdowns we've seen in recent memory. So buckle up, because what I'm about to share from today's ESPN broadcast isn't just about one signing or one contract situation, it's about a franchise that's trying to patch holes and manage crises simultaneously, while still maintaining their playoff positioning. Alright, here's the situation that had the entire SportsCenter panel absolutely locked in this morning. And I'm talking about veteran NFL analysts who cover roster moves every single day, but still couldn't hide their surprise at the timing and significance of what the 49ers announced. The main story, the headline that's going to dominate San Francisco sports talk for the next few days, is that the Niners have signed veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks to their practice squad. And when you really understand the history between Kendricks and this organization, when you see the desperate need they have at linebacker right now, when you recognize the caliber of player they're bringing in, it becomes absolutely clear that this isn't just a routine depth move. This is the 49ers scrambling to address a critical shortage at a key position. Let me start by giving you the full context that SportsCenter was establishing right at the beginning of the broadcast, because understanding the backstory between Kendricks and the 49ers is absolutely essential for grasping why this signing has so much narrative weight behind it. Last offseason, during the legal tampering period, Kendricks verbally agreed to a one-year contract with San Francisco to serve as a veteran backup linebacker. But then, at the last minute, he backed out of that agreement to sign with the rival Dallas Cowboys instead. The 49ers were left scrambling, and they ended up signing Devondre Campbell as their backup linebacker solution. And that turned into an absolute disaster. But here's what really got the SportsCenter analysts fired up about the Kendricks situation specifically. And this is where the story gets even more dramatic. Campbell not only played poorly for the Niners last season, he famously walked off the field at Levi's Stadium during a game after essentially getting benched in favor of Dre Greenlaw, and he was never seen with the team again after that incident. It was one of the most unprofessional and shocking displays we've seen from a player in recent memory, and it all traces back to Kendricks spurning the 49ers in the first place. So now here we are almost a full year later, and Kendricks is finally signing with San Francisco after all that drama and history between them. The show dove deep into Kendricks' resume and what he brings to the table. And here's where you really see why, despite being 32 years old, he's still someone teams want on their roster. Kendricks is a 10-year NFL veteran, which is absolutely worth celebrating in a league where the average career length is around 3 years. He was a first-team All-Pro back in 2019, he's been to the Pro Bowl, and his durability has been absolutely remarkable throughout his career. Last season with the Cowboys, he started 15 games and recorded 138 combined tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hits. Those are solid numbers for a veteran linebacker. What the SportsCenter crew kept emphasizing, and I think this is absolutely critical for understanding why the Niners made this move now, is that Kendricks has combined for over 100 tackles in every season except his rookie year. From 2016 through last season, that's 9 straight years of reaching triple digits in tackle. Now obviously total tackles aren't the be-all end-all metric for evaluating linebacker play. There's a lot of context that goes into those numbers, but what it does show is consistency, durability, and the ability to be on the field play after play making an impact. For a 49ers team that's absolutely decimated at linebacker right now, the Those qualities are invaluable. The panel spent extensive time breaking down the injury situation that precipitated this Kendricks signing, and when you see the full picture, it becomes obvious why San Francisco had to act. Fred Warner, their all-pro linebacker and defensive captain, is out for the year with a broken ankle. That's an absolutely crushing loss for this defense. One of their most important players gone for the stretch run. Tatum Bethune is out for a few weeks with a high ankle sprain. Curtis Robinson got the start on Monday Night Football against Carolina and frankly did not play well, giving up 3 catches on 3 targets and grading out as the lowest-rated 49er that night. The linebacker depth chart is absolutely bare right now. What I found particularly fascinating during today's Sports Center discussion was when they started talking about Kendricks' football IQ and his experience as a Mike linebacker. He played under defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer with the Minnesota Vikings, where he was coached up to be one of the best linebackers in football, and then he reunited with Zimmer last season in Dallas. The ESPN analysts were explaining how having someone with Kendricks' experience and football intelligence can be a massive asset, even if his physical tools have declined somewhat with age. He's seen every offensive scheme. He knows how to diagnose plays pre-snap. He can help communicate defensive adjustment. He can mentor younger players. Those intangible qualities matter enormously. The show also explored the realistic expectations for Kendricks' role with the 49ers, and this sparked really interesting debates among the panel. Will he start this Sunday against Cleveland? The analysts seem to think there's a legitimate chance he does, and honestly, that wouldn't shock me either. When you've been in the league for 10 years and you've played at the level Kendricks has played at, you can get up to speed quickly on a new defensive system. Robert Saleh's defense isn't overly complicated, and Kendricks has the football IQ to process information and execute assignments without needing weeks of practice. At the very least, he's going to get significant playing time to help shore up that linebacker corps. Now, we have to talk about the Brandon Aiyuk situation because the updates that came out today on SportsCenter were absolutely stunning and really paint a picture of just how badly this relationship between player and organization has deteriorated. According to reporting from Mike Silver and Diana Rossini last Friday, the 49ers and Aiyuk are headed toward a divorce because he didn't show up for team meetings and the organization voided his 2026 contract guarantees. That decision makes him much more tradable or releasable from a financial standpoint, and it signals that this situation has reached a point of no return. But here's what really had the SportsCenter analysts shocked, and this is where you see just how unprofessional Aiyuk's behavior has allegedly been. According to Jeremy Fowler's reporting that was discussed extensively on the show, the issue with Aiyuk's contract being voided was his failure to show up for rehab appointments during the off-season. Let me repeat that because it's absolutely critical. After suffering a major knee injury that included an ACL tear, MCL tear, and meniscus tear, Aiyuk allegedly wasn't showing up to rehab appointments with the team's medical staff. Either he didn't trust the trainers, or he simply didn't want to show up, but either way, that's typically easy grounds for a team to void contract guarantee. The show spent extensive time analyzing just how bizarre and self-destructive this behavior is from Aiyuk's perspective. And honestly, the ESPN panel was unanimous in their criticism. The 49ers just gave this guy a $76 million contract worth $30 million per year. And after he suffers a catastrophic knee injury, he's not showing up to rehab? The team is obviously going to want him in-house. They're going to want to monitor his recovery closely. They're going to want to make sure he's doing everything possible to get back to full health. When you don't show up to those appointments, you're basically telling the organization that you don't care about the investment they just made in you, that you're not taking your recovery seriously, that you've mentally checked out. What the SportsCenter crew kept coming back to, and I think this is absolutely vital for understanding how this situation is going to resolve, is that Aiyuk has almost certainly gotten terrible advice over the last year and a half since the 49ers lost the Super Bowl. The analysts were speculating about who's in his ear, what advice he's receiving, why he's making decisions that are so obviously counter to his own best interests. when you have a chance to play for a championship contending team, when you're making $30 million per year, when you're coming off a major injury that requires diligent rehab to fully recover from. Burning bridges with your organization makes zero sense. The panel also explored the trade market for Aiyuk and whether any teams would actually be interested in acquiring him. And this is where the analysis got really interesting. Jeremy Fowler reported that a few teams believe Aiyuk is slightly more tradable now that the 2026 guarantees have been voided. But most people around the league expect this to ultimately lead to his release, rather than a trade. The Sports Center analysts were explaining the logic. Why would a team give up draft picks or players to acquire Aiyuk when they could just wait for the 49ers to release him and then sign him as a free agent? You'd get him without giving up assets, and you could negotiate a team-friendly contract rather than taking on his existing deal. What really struck me during the ESPN discussion was when they started talking about the risk factors associated with acquiring Aiyuk. He's coming off a major knee injury where we don't know how he'll look when he returns to the field. He's shown extremely unprofessional behavior, with not showing up to rehab appointments and team meetings. There are clearly maturity and commitment questions that any acquiring team would have to consider. Yes, he had over 1,300 receiving yards in 2023, and he's only 27 years old. So the talent is undeniable. But talent alone isn't enough if the person attached to that talent brings baggage and uncertainty. The show also touched on what Aiyuk's preferred outcome probably is at this point, and based on his behavior, it seems pretty clear he wants out of San Francisco. The fact that he's apparently not even fighting the guarantee voids with the NFL Players Association suggests he's accepted this relationship is over, and he just wants to move on. Getting released and hitting free agency in March would give him the cleanest path to choosing his next destination, signing with a team he actually wants to play for, starting fresh, without all this drama and bad blood. The Sports Center panel was discussing potential landing spots for him, teams that need receiver help and might be willing to take a chance despite the red flag. One thing that came up during the ESPN analysis that I thought was absolutely fascinating was the comparison to other high-profile player-team divorces we've seen in recent years. When a relationship deteriorates to this point where trust is completely broken, where the player isn't showing up to mandatory appointments, where the team is voiding guarantees, there's usually no path back. The analysts were citing examples of similar situations where things got ugly, and both sides ultimately benefited from parting ways, even if it was messy in the moment. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses and move on. What I loved about today's Sports Center coverage was how they connected these two stories, the Kendricks signing and the Aiyuk situation, to the broader narrative of where the 49ers are as an organization right now. This is a team that's 8-4 and firmly in playoff contention despite dealing with arguably more significant injuries than any other contender in the NFC. They're making moves like signing Kendricks to address immediate needs and keep their championship hopes alive. At the same time, they're dealing with off-field drama and personnel issues like the Aiyuk situation that threaten to become distraction. How they navigate all of this over the next month will determine whether they're genuine Super Bowl contenders or just another team that falls short. The panel also discussed the upcoming game against Cleveland and why it's such a critical test for this 49ers team. The Browns have an elite defense led by Myles Garrett. They play physical and tough. They're not an easy opponent, even if their record doesn't jump off the page. With Kendricks potentially starting at linebacker, with Brock Purdy needing to bounce back from his poor performance against Carolina, with the offensive line having to deal with one of the best pass rushers in football, there are serious questions about whether San Francisco can go on the road and get a quality win. A loss would raise real concerns about this team's ability to compete when things get difficult. Listen, after watching the entire Sports Center segment today covering the Kendricks signing and the Aiyuk drama, I'm absolutely convinced that these next few weeks are going to define the 49ers season one way or another. Kendricks gives them an experienced veteran who can help stabilize a linebacker core that's been devastated by injuries. If he can perform at even 75% of what he was last year in Dallas, That's a massive upgrade over what they were trotting out there on Monday night. As for Aiyuk, that situation is just sad and disappointing for everyone involved. A talented player throwing away an opportunity to play for a contender, making unprofessional decisions that damage his reputation and future earning potential. The 49ers will move on and be fine without him, but it's still a waste of what could have been a great partnership.